Julia, what's going on today?
Hey, I'm an atheist down here in Florida. And whenever I decided to become an atheist, my life got way better when I denounced the idea of a God. And then recently, I looked at my life and I found that, I was following capitalism and the market and the stock market, to be specific.
Sure.
Like it was a God too. And then when I denounced that, my life got even better. And I'm wondering if you guys had any input on other gods that we have in our society that we don't need to have because they aren't real.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I know that a lot of atheists, I mean, myself included sometimes, kind of rankle when we start saying like, well, is science a religion? Is atheism a religion? And some of these words can get a little bit squishy, but as a therapist, I have to point out that there are so many aspects of life that we just kind of continue on with unexaminedly without ever stopping to ask the question like, why do we do it this way? Should we do it this way? Does it actually benefit anybody to do it this way? Capitalism is one of those we might want to take a look at, guys.
Yeah.
What comes to mind for you, Jim?
I think economic systems in general, I think we need to look at ideas as opposed to, your economic system, right? Because any system was going to have flaws. But if we look at the best ideas and we focus on the right things, that helps, staying away from saying this is the only way and realizing that life is a Venn diagram in many cases. It's not ever one thing. It can be and should be multiple things, right? Capitalism, the idea is pretty good, but the problem is, of course, there are people who, nobody in capitalism, nobody in modern society starts at the same place. If everybody started at the same place socioeconomically, then we could say that capitalism is a really good idea. But we need to recognize that doesn't happen. And that doesn't happen for a wide variety of reasons, some of which are we can control and some of which we can't. But, we do need to be careful. Communism was one of those things that I don't think that any currently communist nation or formerly communist nation, looking at Russia and China, of course, that their systems are any better, but they also have the same problem, right? They took it to the point of religion where they were willing to kill people who didn't believe the same thing that they did.
Right.
And I think that's where, look at what you're willing to do to support or believe in, right? If you're willing to give up rationality to believe in a system, then you probably don't have a good system. There's something wrong there with that.
Can we find a middle path? Can we just lead an examined life? I mean, it's tricky. What kind of experiences have you had, Julia?
That was a lot deeper of an answer than I expected.
Sorry to say. Occupational hazard.
Yes.
Exploits about celebrities and watching TMZ, to be quite honest with you. But, I mean, we could do that too.
Yeah. No, I do think that there is a lot about our culture that we should be examining. And, I sat down recently with a young therapist who is interested in pursuing like religious trauma as a specialty and wanted to know, well, why do we consider this separate from just regular old trauma? And, there's a raging debate about whether or not religious trauma should be a separate diagnosis. I think we can go back and forth, and there are interesting arguments on both sides. But a meaningful aspect of religious trauma is the fact that a terrible thing can happen to you, and your entire community will surround you saying, nope, that's the way it should have been. That's what we should be doing. That's the way God wants it. This is the way it's supposed to be. You're having terrible nightmares about going to hell? Well, good, because you don't want to go to hell. So there's a reason for this. And I think that just points to the dangers of like unquestioned conformity. We as a species need to be able to get along. We need to learn from each other, and there's value in group cohesion. But we just aren't asking any of these questions, we get into trouble.
Right. And I think even with, like you're saying about group cohesion, we also need to be careful about the group. Like, we're here in Texas, and Texans are a weird bunch because I saw someone with a shirt where it says, American until Texas secedes.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, there's a traitor. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was one of those crazy conspiracy theorists, Republic of Texas nuts in the 90s, and that's still in the water down here.
Yeah. And so that becomes, worship of, that's the community we're talking about, but it doesn't go far enough. And I think, looking at identifying humanity as our community is one of those things that avoids the things we were just talking about Texas, because the same thing happens with the MAGA crowd in the United States, right? My country, right or wrong? No, my country to support when it's right and to correct when it's wrong would be more correctly stated. But we can even do that at that level too, at our political stuff. Political parties aren't something to be followed blindly. Many people call me a Democrat because I voted Democrat. Well, the other person was worse, so I picked the better of two evils. Please give me a better system where I don't have to do that. I'll support that any day of the week.
Hey, that's something I'll pray for whatever that's worth. So, Julia, I know that's kind of a wide-ranging answer on a very big question, but was there anything else that you wanted to highlight here, or anything else you're curious about before we move on?
No, that was it. Because the less gods that I blindly worship, the better my life tends to be. Marie Kondo, get in here and clear these things out.
Yes, very, very true.
Well, good on you. It's tough work, but it's worth doing. So we appreciate you joining us and wish you the best of luck. Glad you've had such a good time deconstructing.